Marriage by Design presents
Real Talk
featuring James Penn.
and Yolanda Penn.
Let's talk
Dating and sex.
love and marriage,
Calling all singles.
dating,
Engaged.
married.
Real Talk.
Register now. Marriage by Design presents
Real Talk,
featuring James Penn.
and Yolanda Penn.
Let's talk
Dating and sex.
love and marriage,
Calling all singles.
dating,
Engaged.
married.
Real Talk.
Register now.
All right, so we should have sound now. We'll give it just a moment. All right, so yeah, it's not going through the mic here. All right, so let's get back to it, and we're gonna bring everybody back up to speed. Appreciate you guys giving us that message, and also for you guys staying on and bearing with us with the audio issues here. But we got to get back into it because Sima is dropping it already. All right, so let's just recap. Just look kind of quickly so we can get into the topic. We're gonna talk about standards versus preferences. For those who missed the audio here with our technical difficulties, Sima Torian, our special guest here, is a relationship coach and a single strategist. She is the founder of Butterfly Moments with Sima. She's a motivational speaker, upcoming author, completing her master's in psychology right now. And her life's goal is to use her relationship downfalls to assist women in making better relationship choices. Now, you were sharing with us how your journey of becoming a life coach under Tony Gaskins back in 2013, and even in doing that, you had to really evaluate the fact that you had a failed marriage.
That's
You
right.
are divorced, and you had to overcome that, and there was a little process. So tell us again, now that we have audio, a little bit about that process and Butterfly Moments with Sima.
Yes, I after I got divorced, I really I'm a very introspective person anyway, and so I always believe when something happens, it's either going to be a lesson or a blessing. So the fact that my marriage failed, I had to really think about, it takes two, like I said before, it takes two to tango. So we both had to do our part. So I had to ask myself, like, what was your part? And I began to really dissect, what I did right, what I didn't do right, what I maybe should have been doing and I didn't do, things like that on the back end. Unfortunately, that's what I had to do. So from that experience, I decided to, well, how can I use this to help somebody? And that's when I decided to go ahead and get my certification in life coaching. I decided to focus more on relationships and deal mostly with the singles, because I felt like if I could just get one beautiful lady, I call them my beautiful butterflies, to make a good choice in a mate, then I feel like I've done my job. And so essentially I just felt like, let me use what has happened to me. I'll use it, So I open myself up to that and share my life story to help somebody else.
And that's impactful for other people. We were talking about when everybody couldn't hear us, how you learn more in life from the failures than the successes. And success being that horrible teacher that it is, you're going to learn from mistakes, and you're either going to learn from your own mistakes or someone else's.
That's right.
So for the singles out there watching, this is an opportunity for you to hear from somebody before you have to make those same same roadblocks, if you will, go through those same roadblocks because that's something that you bring to the table. So I think that's very powerful. Now, you were telling us also about some of the things that you do as a single strategist. Tell us about that, because I thought that was unique.
Yes. What I actually devised it's a 4 to 5 week coaching plan that I have with singles when they sign up with me, and it's one-on-one. And we literally go back to the beginning, because to understand something, I feel like you have to go all the way back to the beginning of a thing. So we go back to the way they were raised, and a lot of people don't feel like that's important, but it's very important. Because a lot of our choices are made based on the way we were raised. I feel like there's a high percentage of what we do is a learned behavior. For example, my mom was a single mom. She never said out of her mouth, you can do all of this by yourself. You don't need, quote unquote, a man. She never said that, but she said that.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Because she was a single mom. She did it.
So that's what she was teaching you.
That's what she
without teaching you.
Without teaching, and exactly. So it is a learned behavior, and that's why I tell people, you can tell your kids all day long, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do this.
Right.
But they watch you.
Right. You learn more from the watching than you do from
absolutely
speaking.
Do. That's right. You absolutely do. So I just felt like we need to go back, look at that. Then we go into phase 2, where we kind of look at how they feel about themselves. That has a lot to do with decisions you make as well. Do you have low self-esteem? Do you think you're attractive? We go, and believe it or not, interestingly, a lot of women don't have very low self-esteem.
Of course.
They don't feel like they're attractive. And sometimes it goes back to dad was absent and nobody really told them they're attractive. And then the 3rd week we go into what I call a relationship resume. And it's sort of like your professional resume. When you send your resume in to the CEO, he looks to see what are your skill sets that kind of carried you through all of your job types, right? So in the relationship resume, we go through all significant relationships. And some of my clients have 1 and some have 10.
Wow.
Okay. It could be the whole gamut. And we kind of look for patterns. And so it's like you're picking the same type of guy.
Jim Rohn says if you do something long enough, a ratio will appear, a pattern will appear.
Absolutely.
And I've never heard of anyone doing this. I don't know how widespread that is, but that's so powerful that you do a resume, because the people who we're dating or looking to have date us, they're doing an interview. They're auditioning. They're auditioning and interviewing you.
Right.
And so when we go on job interviews, we know that they're going to look at our resume, so we look at our resume first before we turn it in.
Oh, that's good.
But in relationships, we don't look at our resume.
That's
we
right.
don't look at our own.
And that's why I have them put it on paper, because it needs to be a tangible item that you can look at. And then that's when the light bulb usually come on, like, I have selected the same guy. And sometimes the guy is just like my daddy. Just like my dad. And so then we can establish a new normal. But a lot of times you have to recognize what the pattern is.
Have to recognize it. I say you if you're going to expect, you have to inspect.
Yes, that's right.
If you're going to expect something, you need to inspect, to take a look and drill into it. So that's very powerful.
Yes. And then the last week, and sometimes it flows over into a 5th or 6th week, we do what we're going to talk about tonight. We I give them a test and have them rate 10 items and how important it is to them. Because I think a lot of times we don't even think about this, like, how important is money to me? How important is having a family? How important is sex? How important is communication? Do I need a whole lot of communication? Do I need a little bit of communication? And I always tell the ladies, be honest, because you know what you need. Be honest. And there's no shame in it. Just put it down. Listen, I care a lot about money. If that's the way she feels, then that's important. You need to keep that in mind when you're making relationship choices. Then we move from that and we do our standards and preference list.
Okay.
Which is the fun part of it. We do together. My job as a coach to them is to make sure that their preferences and standards are reasonable.
No, that's good. Because as women, we can set some unreasonable, unrealistic expectations.
Right. And so I kindly tell them, boo, you're going to be single.
That's good. I think that is so good, because we talk about that often, how women, and definitely as you get older, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s,
Absolutely.
and if you're single and you have all these unrealistic expectations that you placed on a man, it's like you're going to be single forever.
Absolutely. Or you're going to choose a mate, and in your mind, you're going to feel like you settled. which is going to play out in the relationship. Been there, done that one. I know because I've experienced it. So you got to make sure your expectations are realistic. And so I will have them move things around. I know we're going to get more into the preferences and standards and everything. And
let's do it. Let's go into it right now. Let's
So I actually have them come up with 2 lists, and we work on it together. And I always tell them your standards are your non-negotiables, your deal breakers. Okay. Basically, you're going to go out and meet somebody, or you'll go on a date. And a date is simply gathering data. That's all it is. So I'm going on this date. I don't know this guy. He doesn't know me. We're going out, and I kind of got my standards, which are the most important to me, in my head. So they write those down. And that's going to be different for everybody.
Right.
Because it kind of it correlates with your personal values. So whereas I might value something very high, that's why we take the test before. Somebody else might value it low. For example, one of my clients was like, okay, I value money to me is not really important. She might say it's a 3. Okay. So, but then somebody else was like, no, it's 10. And it's a 10 because happened to me. Right. I experienced this, and I'm not going through that again. That was me on my list. You know, like, you got to get your money right, because I can't do it. But you got to know you. Then we talk about their preferences. These are things that are negotiable. So if you found a really good guy found you, and he had all the standards, and there's a couple of things on the preferences maybe he didn't measure up to, then you have a really good candidate. So that helps them to, number one, not waste people's time.
Right.
Which is this is 2017. People are crazy. Do not waste people's time. If you know when you go out that he got like one thing on your standards, then I feel like you need to make an assessment of it and say maybe there's no need for a second date.
Right. Nah, don't be going out again for a free meal.
Ain't no need. Exactly. No free meal.
You really want to go to that? You really want to go to that show? And you know you got tickets. Well, I can go one more time.
See, because here's one thing I learned about the guys, and you can tell me, but some of the guys tell me, it was like, if she says yes, then in my mind, I feel like I have a chance.
Absolutely. I can just talk for me personally, and this is not about dating because the only person I'm dating now is my wife, but just in general, I'm delusional to failure. You know, because I'm in a sales profession. That's what I do it for a living. If you don't give me a firm no, I think I got a shot. I'm closing the sale, and I find that most men, I'm weighing you down, baby. Steve Roper, right? So you gotta communicate that.
You gotta communicate it, and so I have to help them sometimes. Like, how do I tell him, like after the first date, that it's like I'm not going on the second date? I don't know why, but we ladies have a difficult time with that, and we might work through how to communicate, that to the person, because you have to keep in mind. And I always say this: you're wasting the person's time.
And you're wasting yours.
And exactly, your time too. So if you continue knowing it's just no chance that we're gonna have a long-term relationship, it is not fair to you or that person.
I think the fact that you take them through this very intentional process,
right,
it makes it easier for you to identify and recognize, because sometimes people, it's hard to hit a target that you don't have.
Right.
And so if they don't have the criteria, they haven't taken the time to make this resume, make their list, their standards, their preferences, it may feel kind of off, but they don't really know for sure. And so they can't cross it off. So tell us, when you work with the ladies and they're evaluating their standards and their preferences, how do you help them shuffle it around? And do you find that sometimes ladies have standards that really should be preferences, or preferences that should be standards? Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. That is a big, and we get tickled by some of them, but I'll just give you some examples. And this is just the way we ladies do, because I was in that boat too. I'll just be honest with you. Okay, one is height.
As a what side?
As they want to, they want to put on their standards. Okay, he got to be 6'2". And so you like, huh?
Short fella.
That's right, baby.
So listen. So I was one of those too. I was like, oh, he got to be tall. But then I realized that, are you kidding me? Would you have a really good man that wants to be in your life, that wants to have a lifetime commitment to you, and he's not 6'2", you would turn that person down? Because we cannot determine how tall we are. It's not like he can go and take a pill and fix it.
Right.
And you're like, oh, yeah. put that on the preference list. So we moved that over there. And I'm like, dang, you moving all my stuff because that's not important. The standards list should be things that deal with character. And I know Tony Gaston says all the time, character has to be their currency. So his character's number one. That's on the standards list, right? That's going to take you a long way into the marriage. I'm sure you guys can identify. That's going to go way past some of this other stuff that we're looking at. Is his character, right? His leadership. You know, that needs to be a standard. That's very important to me. You know, we were talking earlier about partnership. I need somebody who can partner with me. So I need a leader because I'm a leader, right? Some other things they put on the list, and I have to shuffle it on over to the preferences. Things like teeth and shoes, and I'm like, okay, cars, put that over there. That's just, you know, we can fix it. Credit, here's one. Credit comes up a lot. They want that on it. He got to have, my credit is good. He got to. The thing about it is, credit can be fixed. Right. That's an easy fix. I've cleaned mine up at least twice before, so you can shuffle that on over there. And then they start saying, well, my standards is getting short. That's the key. Put the most important things on the standards list. So when somebody does not meet those few things, you know, no second date.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So as they're shuffling and now they're moving on to the next level and they're ready to start dating and find or be found, what are you telling them, or how are you saying make yourself available? What do you tell them?
That's a good question. First thing I tell them is get out of the house.
That's good.
Get out of the house. A lot of the ladies tend to, you know, particularly if they have had a failed relationship, whether it was a marriage or a boyfriend, girlfriend thing, they just shut down and stay in, right? So I always tell them, unless he is the UPS guy, he's never going to see you. And men are visual. They must see you first. Now I learned that from Tony Gaston. He was like, go to the mall and, you know, you don't have to buy anything. If you're working on your budget and all that, you don't have to buy anything. Go to the mall, sit down, smile.
Smile.
Eye contact. Don't be like, why is he looking at me? Smile at all. You never know. Smile at all people. And I just kind of push them out of the house. And the second thing I tell them is stop going everywhere with all your girlfriends.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
Why not? Because if your girlfriends look like my girlfriends, all my girlfriends are very attractive. They're smart business owners, very smart ladies. Then I want to be, when I walk in, I want for me to be this enough attention. Because remember, he's visual. He's going to see you first. So the first thing, a lot of them, and believe it or not, they don't want to go out by themselves. Oh my God, I can't do it. So I make them go out. And if I had to be on the phone, like, and they're like, oh, everybody's staring at me. Ain't nobody looking at you. Just sit there, take your phone, eat dinner, enjoy yourself. And I did that. See, I had to walk it out first. And it has certainly increased my level of self-esteem as far as who I am as a person. So when I'm approach somebody, I'm confident as to what I bring to the table.
Oh, that's good.
And so it really helps them to do that. And then at the same time, when you agree to go on a date, you're always in the back of your mind. I'm not saying have a piece of paper where you're like checking it out, but in your mind, you've gotten so, you've bought in to your list at that point that it's down in here. And a lot of people don't like to talk about preferences and standards. They're like, just don't go by a list. I feel like it is a blueprint.
Right.
With anything, you know, an architecture never just starts building a house. You know, he could probably put it together, right? But the plan, stick with the plan.
Stick with the plan.
Stick with the plan. The owner wants the bathroom here or whatever. Stick with the plan. So if you go and stick with the plan, and even the other thing too is even if they choose someone and they're like, well, I've had this happen. They call and say, uh-oh, I went out with this guy and he didn't do that. And I didn't, you know, I wasn't really paying attention to X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, well, what did you learn from that? Because I felt like, you know, he was fine. He had a nice body and all. I could probably get, you know, don't pay attention to these two things. But those things, his character, all those things on the list, those are the things going to take you a long way. You know, and then if God happens to bless you with all that and a nice body and all that, okay, well, thank you.
I think that is so out of balance on both sides. Of course, we're talking, you talk to single ladies, but even for the men as well. People put so much stock into how good somebody look. Now, it might sound, people might say, well, James, you got a hot wife, so it's easy for you to say, right? But here's the thing about beautiful people. Beautiful people one day ain't gonna be beautiful.
That's right.
If that is the reason, and obviously we all get older and we don't look the same. That we had the tight body. Where as you get older, you don't always. You know, I know Jack LaLanne was still looking tight at 90, but everybody ain't gonna be Jack LaLanne.
That's right.
But even beyond just natural aging, what if you marry somebody and they get in an accident?
That's right.
What is that? And it was so heavily based off of just how they physically look. Again, we're not saying they don't have any attraction there, but for some people to overlook character issues because of how fine somebody is, you set yourself up for failure.
Right, and it happens all the time.
Wow.
It happens all the time, and then you find yourself, it's fun at the beginning and all that. About 6 months in, you're like, wait, you know, I can't depend on them for this. I can't depend on them. They don't do this. And you're like, what? Why am I here? Now you wasted 6 months. Right?
And people's looks change even when they don't. They look the same, but you can't stand them no more, and they don't even look that good. They don't. Or the person who didn't look as good, but they start growing on. You're like, you know what? If I kind of squint my eyes, turn my head to the side a little bit, they look alright.
I posted a meme about that back on my page where the guy was proposing to her and it had a picture of what he really liked, and then with the ring he was phenomenal. It's like, wow.
I think I saw that. He looked real good.
Yeah, you didn't pick it up at first. He was like, what's the difference? I was like, no, look again.
Exactly.
I think I saw that.
Now, one of the things you said about ladies don't go out together. Ladies love going out to packs. Y'all don't even go to the bathroom by yourself. You're always together. Aside from just wanting to be able to stand out, even if you do stand out, as a man, it's intimidating to go up, even if he sees you and he wants to. If you got 10 of your girlfriends with you, he's less likely to come up to you.
That's absolutely true. And that's the other thing I tell them is if there's a guy, he scoped out your whole crew and he's like, she's cute. I would really like to approach her. But y'all, you know, you're all cackling and having a good time. He's probably not going to come over.
Wow.
And it's just the way it is. And I've had women say, well, that's his fault. But it's not, he's just not going to put, and he might wait till you go to the bathroom. And then when you're coming out, say, hey, how you doing? You know, whatever. But usually when you go out in a big group like that, men are like, I like that one that has on the white shirt, but I just don't know about going over there because I don't want to be rejected.
Right.
Yeah. And it's so funny because, you even kind of went into character a little bit in jest, but of course all humor is based in truth. He said, well, he should have kept, and the attitude, those are the ones that end up staying single.
That's it. That's it. Well, he should have done this and he should have done this. But the reality of it has nothing to do with his confidence and so forth. It's just the way it is. Most men are not going to approach a big pack of beautiful women, and he'll wait till you get by yourself.
And if he does, and if it is the guy that's going to approach it, he's usually the joker.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's the one that's like, hey, what's up, ladies?
No, that's true.
And then
that's
you like,
true, though. And I was like, okay.
The one that's more often than not always, but more often than not, the guy that will come up and he got the smooth line. The one that's going to do all, he's the one that got the game. He got game for a reason.
Right.
That's right. That's right. I didn't think about it like that.
I had a post last week that got a whole lot of traction, and one of the men pointed out that real men are focused on being real men more than being Casanova and trying to be so smooth and have all these different things. So that's something true. And another thing to that, to help the single ladies out here, is single ladies need to pick up on when a man is trying to flirt with you. And sometimes it's subtle. If you see a man looking at you, he's probably interested in you. Now, women might think that's presumptuous. Like, just because I saw him looking at me. Well, the truth is, if you caught him looking at you once, he probably done looked at you 5 times
before you caught him.
Before you caught him. And now, how do you respond? That doesn't mean you go over and approach him and jump in. But like you said earlier, you smile. You give him a little smile. And so if he wasn't looking at you, you just smiled at him. So what? But you make yourself open. If you notice that the man, he was on the other side of the room, now he's closer to you. He was over there, now he right next to you at the bar. Men sometimes are working that confidence up. So you can smile and say, hey, how you doing? And worst case scenario, you just greet a stranger. But that could be the thing to open it up where, okay, he gets the confidence now to approach you.
Right. And I think what I tell the ladies is just give a little bit of eye contact to kind of let him know it's okay to approach. If like you said, by the time you really notice it, he's probably watched you you didn't know it, and then he finally looks at you, and you look up like, why is this guy staring at me? With this smile and give him some eye contact. And like you said, what's the worst case? What's the worst case? Smile and give eye contact to let him know that it's okay, that he can approach if he wants.
Now, I want to make sure that we throw out to our viewers that, hey, if you all have any questions for Sima, any comments, you could definitely throw those out. We'll entertain those as well. We definitely have some more stuff to get into as well.
This is a really good question. Like, what red flags did you see and overlook prior to your marriage? So now you've been working with the women. I love that you have all this life experience that you're able to teach these ladies. So what prior experience would you say that were red flags for you that you can share with our audience?
Right. A couple of red flags for me, and again, I had to get really real with myself to say, because at first I was like, I didn't have no red flags. Like, me miss something? No, I didn't miss. But then when I really started thinking about it, I'm like, that was probably a red flag that I took too lightly. That's the thing. We think when we say red flag, we think it's going to be like a big flagpole flag, but it's usually not. It's really, really subtle. One of them is, and I always tell the ladies that when you're dating or courting, you almost need something to go wrong. You got to see how he handles conflict resolution. And whether he's going to shut down, not speak, whatever. That was one of the red flags for me that I missed. We had a situation that happened while we were dating, and I remember very clearly. And that's what he did. He shut down. Now, we're in the courting stage, right? Just your representative. This is the person, because you send your representative. We all do that. So we all send our representative out. So eventually, over time, you get to know the real person. So one of the things that I did miss was when something goes wrong, because of the way he was raised.
Wow.
If you have a problem, that it's like everybody, he assumed that it's going to be angry, battling out, but it doesn't have to be. You guys know that being married, he doesn't have to be that way. You communicate your way through it, right? So to avoid it, because that's the way he was taught, don't say nothing. Shut down for days.
Wow.
Okay. So then after we get married, that was the norm. When a problem would arise where we don't agree, just shut down would happen. And because I'm a very communicative person, that bothered me. It felt like, I don't know, I felt abused in some way because I cannot talk to my partner. Neglected. Wow. That's a better word. Because I could not talk to my partner about what had happened. Now I know that sometimes men need a little bit of time to just kind of process what went down. But the key is he must come back.
Right.
But that didn't happen. So I found myself always saying, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about this, we need to. So what happens? All these things start piling up. And I felt like we were always tripping over these things we piled up because we never addressed them. That was one red flag that I saw a couple of times while we were dating, but I just said, it's okay. We'll work it out after we get married. I'm not saying that was a deal breaker. But what we should have done was, maybe at that point, how you have your premarital counseling, everybody goes through that. I feel like sometimes in the premarital counseling, they don't dig deep enough.
I agree.
And I think, so that should have been one of the things maybe we should have talked about. And maybe we didn't, again, I ignored it, so I probably didn't bring it up to the counselors, right? But maybe we needed to talk about, how do you communicate when there's a conflict between you and your partner?
This is so good, and you talk about during this courting period, everybody brings the representative to the table, and that's what we say. I love that you look for some type of conflict that happened throughout the time, because you date the act, but you marry the react.
Yes.
And so how they react, I always tell people, don't marry them until you see them use a computer with slow internet.
That's
it. You want to see them. You want to set it up. Yeah, upload the internet. See what happened when they try to work on.
Have the house wrong.
You just see that reaction.
There you go.
You're going a little too far now. You're going a little too far.
The house wrong.
You go a little too far. No, but
calm down.
We do need to see that, because and all of this comes back to what you stated earlier is character. Character.
Absolutely.
People get so focused on what a person has versus who they are.
Right.
They're looking at personality versus character, and you got to have the standards and the preferences in line. So I love that. Right. So what were some of the other things that through your journey of divorce that you learned that has been able to help you help single ladies that you coach?
You always need to find out what their relationship is with money. There were some red flags too in regards to money when we were doing our courting. And because, and I think I shared this with you before, my parents died when I was 19, both of them. Wow. Like 2.5 months apart. So I had one sibling, and we were very, very, very mature. We had to grow up fast, you know. So we made money mistakes because my mom really didn't teach us about money and how to handle money and your emotion. You do know you have an emotional attachment to money, right? So I feel like you need to find that out because it's important. Because if you have two people, you're trying to build something together, and you got one person over here that feels like, let's save, let's build, we can, deny ourselves now and, party later. We got to save. But then you have another person over here that's an overspender, impulsive spender, things like that. You got to know all of that because you kind of bring your two brands together. Right. And so if one person's stock is failing, but yours is on the rise, you wouldn't put those two together, right? So one of the things when I look back on it, there were a couple of situations regarding money that let me know that there was not a healthy relationship with money. And then after we got married, we had a lot of problems with money. A lot of problems with money and not managing money correctly. And it actually, it was a big part of why we are not together today.
And I see even in your language pattern, you're focusing on the activity of it, not the end result necessarily. Because a lot of women do have money on their list somewhere. And they're just looking at the end result. Does he have money? Does he have credit? Right. But you were talking about managing. And it's not so much about where you are as it is about how you got there. Because somebody could have money, but they got there through some means that's of poor character.
That's right.
Or someone else could not have money. You said earlier, credit can be fixed. If maybe their finance and their credit isn't on point, but it's for a noble reason. Maybe they took care of a relative medically or so it's not necessarily where they are as much as it is about how they got there. Was it through lack of responsibility or was it through just misfortune? Because I don't care who you are, misfortune, tragedy can come in and hit somebody. So sometimes we just see something and then we might eliminate without doing more due diligence and digging into, okay, well, that's the story, but what's the story behind the story?
Right. That's right. And I think that comes with communication. When you talk about, like I said, premarital counseling, I don't think they go deep enough. So instead of just saying, okay, look, your credit looks good, your credit look good, you make this, are y'all okay with that? Talk about, if the credit is not so good, what happened? Like, what were some of the choices you made? And they might tell you, like you said, my mom got sick and I had to finance this or whatever. So then you can understand it. It didn't really have anything to do with poor choices. They had to do what they had to do for their family. Right. But you don't know that unless you talk about it. Right. We're, like you said, we're just looking at the credit score. Okay, he got a 700, good, and he makes 6 figures. But he could make 6 figures, but in a lot of debt. Right. So, and then somebody over here that makes $50,000 with no debt, it's probably a better situation. Right. So I always say, find out how they feel about money. And the way to do that, when I'm with the ladies, when we go all the way back, we talk about how was money when you were growing up? Like, how did you view money? And I learned that from taking Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace. And they talked about your emotional attachment to money. And I had to check myself because that debit card, you just go in there and swipe, so, but you give me $100 bill and say, okay, this got to last you the next week. I can go into Target and get one thing. But that debit, you go straight. So it's all about the relationship with money. That was one of the red flags that did happen that I missed. As a matter of fact, there was a couple of things. One thing happened 2 days before the wedding that I dismissed as well. And sure enough, after we had so many problems with money after saying I do.
Wow.
I want to give a couple of shouts out real quick. Sonia is on. She says, yes, love language. I guess that was earlier we were talking. Lisa's giving amens. Teresa said, teach, sis. So I guess these are some of your ladies. Tamika says, yes, big sis. All my girls are on, so they're spreading the word. Raven, like, what's up, Raven? He said, good stuff, y'all. Tuesday said, there go my girls. Yes, Sima. Good stuff says, good stuff right here says Tara Niblet. Appreciate all you guys tuning in, all the other viewers. Hey, if you got any questions, we're about to run out of time here, but we want to take some questions from y'all. If you have any questions, Sima giving y'all all the goods right now. All of the goods. She's a single strategist. She's a life coach. Butterfly moments with Sima. We've been talking about standards versus preferences. We've talked about some red flags. As we get ready to wind down, and maybe we'll get a question or two before we wrap up. But what is like maybe some final thoughts for single ladies out there? We've talked about making yourself available. We've talked about the difference between standards and preferences. What are maybe some final points that you say people really have to consider?
Right. I would say to the ladies, while you're waiting to be found, a lot of single women feel like, this is the worst state ever. And I just, I feel like this is a really good time in your life. You should be focusing on yourself. And Tony Gaskins gives us the 3 B's to focus on your brand. And your brand is you. Like when I walked in here, I'm my brand, right? And focus on your body. And that doesn't mean you got to have a 6-pack and all that, but be healthy. Go to the gym. Yes. Go to the gym, eat right. I have high blood pressure, so I try to manage that. You got to do all that stuff. And then your brain, read.
That's good.
Books, magazines, go to do things like this, go to the conferences, do all of that while you're single, because you have the time, you can do more and pour into yourself. And then go out, like I said, go out on your own, try to build up your self-confidence. If you need to have a mentor or coach, whatever you need to do to be the best single woman you can be. I always say, don't be a good woman. You know how people say, I'm a good woman. Be a great woman. Be a great woman.
Oh, I love that. Sonia, she said, yes, celebrate self first and heal.
And heal, yes.
Yeah.
And you gotta heal. And listen, if healing requires that you might need to go see a therapist or counselor, invest in yourself and do it.
Right.
You have to. I have no shame in it. I've been to a therapist that has saved my life. She took a picture of me the day I came and a picture the day I finished up. And I was just amazed. Like my whole facial, everything about my face was totally different. And spending those 6 months with her. And and we went all the way back to some really tough places in my childhood and parents passing away and all that. But I just think that, you do everything you can to present to someone the best person you can.
And that's probably where you're going to get found. People make this mistake of being idle while they're trying to be patient, not understanding that patience isn't waiting, but it's perseverance while you persist.
Right.
So you're persisting in improving your body, improving your brand, improving your brain. You're persisting in this, in all of these areas, and you're persevering as you persist. That's what patience is all about. It's not just being idle and waiting, and not when the person does come along, are you even ready for it? It's just like we tell people in business, you're waiting for an opportunity, but when the opportunity presents itself, you're not even ready to capitalize it because you weren't preparing.
Right. And that's why I say while you're waiting, work on all this stuff. So when the opportunity shows up, you can say, I'm ready.
So we got a question here.
Okay. Exciting. Okay. Teresa says, how do you deal with fear of settling versus having your standards too high?
That's a very good question, Teresa. Thank you. I think when you're doing, that's why it's really good to have somebody else buy into your list too. Whether it's a coach or another married couple, so they can say, sis, that's a little bit too much right there. Because you don't want to have your standards too high. Because I tell them you're gonna be single a while, okay? But you don't want to settle either, because that feeling of settling will carry out through the whole relationship. So I feel like you got to really buy into your list and feel like it's or your standards and your preferences, and you got to really buy into it. That way you don't have to walk in fear. I know that I need a man that's character. He's a great leader. He's a great provider. If he has children, he's not a deadbeat dad. By the way, that's on my list. That's a standard.
Of course.
Whatever it is, you already got that in here. And the other thing I tell them is keep in mind that as you grow, your list might change. So leave the door open to say, you know what? I thought I really wanted somebody with XYZ, but right now it's not that important to me anymore. Moving on over to the preferences and keep on going. So this helps you from walking in fear of choosing someone and maybe feeling like I settled because you buy into your list. And I always tell the ladies that, I prayed over my list. I still pray over mine. Like, Lord, if something's on my list that you feel like I need to move over here or some over here, I might need to move over here. And you let me know because it's what I want. So I feel like that's the way you can keep from walking in fear, Teresa, and maybe settling or feeling like you're settling.
Yeah. Ronald says life is a journey, so pace yourself.
Yes, I like
Tia
that.
says she's taking notes. This is good stuff. That's so good. We talk about the preferences and all of the different things that people are looking for in a relationship. We have to have an understanding of what perfection is all about.
Right.
Perfection isn't necessarily about being flawless, or it's about being complete. We have a perfect relationship, not in being flawless because we're flawed human beings, but we're complete.
Right.
We're complete in our relationship. And so when you're looking for the flawless individual, marriage sometimes we're in the wrong place in the relationship. Marriage and relationships aren't a place where you go to take. It's somewhere you go to give.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not somewhere you go to examine the other person fully. It's also examination of yourself.
Right.
And so what does it say about you as an individual if you can only get along with people who do everything exactly the way that you want to do them, how you want to do it, when you want them to do it? That's a reflection on you. If you can only get along in a relationship, well, he didn't do this the way I like it done, so he's not a prime candidate. You got some self-growth to do too.
I think it's really awesome that how they say opposites attract,
right?
And I think that happens because we know on the journey where walking out life together that you're good at some things that he might not be so good at, and he's good at things that you're not so good at. So you gotta know, that's your lane because I'm gonna stay over here, because that's what you you got that. Because I'm this is mine. But when some comes up and he knows that you're great at it, I'm gonna send my wife because I know she can handle it. I think the couples forget that.
Right.
Like you get into the marriage, you're like, I can't know everything. That's why I have you. We go together, right? We hold together, or when you come in whole, I come in whole. But the thing is to know who has what strengths and who has the weaknesses, and that's okay. Like you said, not to examine, but I'm good at this, and you're good at that. But together, there's nothing we can't do. One of us might be better at it than the other, but I send you as our representative.
Right.
I like that you said come in whole.
Yeah, come in whole.
Because when you're whole, you don't need somebody else to be perfect.
Right. You don't.
You can handle the person having the natural human flaws that any human being is going to have when you're a whole person. I see a lot of times when men are being cruel in a relationship. That's a sign of weakness.
Right.
Because a powerful man isn't cruel. So you're not whole, you're hurting someone. They say hurt people hurt people.
That's right.
I love Sonia. She says sometimes those standards are high due to the wounds you need to heal from other relationships or childhood experiences. Right? And so that's a sign that you're not whole, you're not healed, that every little thing is bothering you and is a no-go.
And I think that's why it's important to heal.
Right.
So when you get ready to sit down and make it, and that's why I said be open for it to change.
Right.
As you heal, you're going to be like, you know what? That's not important to me anymore. It was because, like Sonia said, I was hurt in that area before. But now, they see, because I'll be transparent. One of mine on my standards list was I felt like he needed to make, the same amount of money I make because of what happened to me before. But now it's like, you know what? When you come together, you're together.
Right.
So I instead of saying he need to make what I make, be gainfully employed, have some leadership skills, be open to growing. We can work out something. So I changed the dynamics of my list. And you will as you heal, because I had to heal that part of myself.
That's transparent.
That is. And I can speak to that about that healing process coming from my background with my biological father and all that kind of stuff. That was bothering me as I was in college, and I was like, something's not right. And I was in a relationship, James and I were dating, and I was like, I just don't want to carry all of this stuff over. And so I went through counseling while I was in college, and it was really neat. So much to the point where I was like, you know what? I think I want to be a counselor. But then I found out I wasn't cut out for that. So I got out of that. But that healing process is so healthy because I was carrying around all this baggage, all this hurt from daddy issues all the way down to other relationship issues, to where when James and I were dating 6 months into the relationship, because every relationship I had had before that in my short amount of college relationships, everybody had did me wrong by the 6 months. And so I was like, so James, you're going to act crazy at 6 months. And so I'm looking at you like this.
Waiting on you to mess up, James.
Right, exactly. And James is like, what? You're really weird right now. And so I was like, okay. So that past relationships, I was putting all of that on to James. And I was like, yeah, I really love our relationship right here. And I don't want that to go on. And so I hadn't got myself checked.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of the ladies do come in. I was one of those too, with daddy issues. And so we're really looking for a dad and not a husband. And so if I could say something that I did in the marriage that was not the best, was I probably put a lot of expectations on him like a dad, because my dad was absent. But that's not why he was there. He wasn't there to be my dad.
Right.
He was there to be my partner and my husband. Totally different. You know, but a lot of times the ladies, if dad was not there, we go into it looking for a dad. So.
Well, Sima, this has been tremendous. We definitely appreciate you coming out, being on the show. We're going to have you back on the show at some time. We are just flat out of time. But before we get out of here, I know you got some things going on. You got a life class, I think, going on next week. Tell us about that. Tell us about anything you have going on, and also how people can get in contact with you. You might have some single ladies out there. Somebody want to book you for speaking or whatever have you. Tell us what you got going on and how they can reach you.
Yes, they can reach me, of course, on all social media. I'm the Sima Torian, but you can also go to my website, www.butterflymomentswithsima.com. And I actually give the ladies a free 30-minute consult so that I can find out if we're a great fit, because sometimes we're not, and then I can refer them to somebody else. So feel free to go out and do that right on the first page there. Also, this Monday, June the 5th, I'm doing a life class tele-event with 3 other dynamic speakers, including myself. And so it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. You get a different person every night. And we're all talking about different things. My night, of course, is going to be about relationships. Then we got one person talking about your spirituality, and somebody's talking about finances. So you want to get in on that. It'll be on my page, and you can sign up and register there. But that's what I got coming up in the next week or so.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again for coming out and being on the show. I know that our viewers got a tremendous amount of value out of all of this right here. And listen, we want to encourage you to make sure that you tune in every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we bring you our Marriage by Design show. And don't forget this weekend.
Yes, this weekend. What camera am I on?
Right here.
This way. This weekend, Saturday, June 3rd, you want to be in the building. Sima was bringing the heat. And we're going to have topics like this. We're going to discuss the topics that can empower you in your relationships. So make sure you go to therealtalktour.com and register. It is your favorite 4-letter word. Free. Get in the door for free. And if you want
to register.
That's right. You have to register. And if you want to upgrade to different packages, we do have those. But at the very least, block out that time. Get in the door. Saturday. Greensboro.
Real Talk
Tour.
Check it out.
Marriage by Design presents
Real Talk
featuring James Penn.
and Yolanda Penn.
Let's talk
Dating and sex.
love and marriage,
Calling all singles.
dating,
Engaged.
married.
Real Talk.
Register now.
All right, so we're going to get out of here and end our show like we always do. Between now and the next time that our paths cross, go out there, design the type of life you deserve for you and your family, and we'll see you on the journey.
All right, let me go get this a little more. Excuse me. She was asleep, and then she woke back up.
That was fun.
Yeah.